What's up, beautiful people? This is Christian from the Successful Spiritualpreneur podcast, and today I'm super excited to have Travis Chappell on the show. And he's a Las Vegas-based entrepreneur, podcaster, and networking strategist known for his in-depth and in-person interviews with world-class guests. As the creator and host of Build Your Network, he has recorded over 800 episodes featuring figures such as Shaquille O'Neal, Dan Cook, Rob Dyrdek, Dr. Nicole LePera, and former President Vicente Fox. He's also the founder of Guestio, a platform connecting creators with high-profile guests. And through his shows, including Travis Makes Friends and Travis Makes Money, he helps people strengthen relationships, expand influence, and create opportunities. Passionate about authentic connection, Chappell is recognized for his meticulous research, ability to draw memorable stories, and philosophy that meaningful relationships are life's greatest asset. Welcome to the show.
What's up, dude? Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, such an honor. And, you have such a long history and experience with podcasting. I'd love to know how you've grown and evolved throughout your podcasting journey and what role has spirituality played in your entrepreneurial life?
Podcasting has been a long journey. We started probably 8 years ago now. And at the beginning, it was very much just I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. And at the time, I was just a door-to-door sales guy. And I was doing pretty well with it. It was just a matter of I didn't feel like I wanted to continue doing it forever. And so I immediately was looking to build a plan to get out of it. So I happened upon podcasts as a way to learn, to consume new information that maybe exposed me to things that I hadn't thought about before. And I, from there, basically decided that why don't I just start one of these? Because I found out that people were actually making money doing it. And I saw, a couple examples of people that were making good money doing it and was like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that people could make, $150,000, $200,000, $300,000 every month just in podcast sponsorship revenue and audience growth and things like that. That's crazy. So that seems fun. Let's try it out. So the podcast was, from the beginning, the goal was to build sponsorship revenue. And then I launched and quickly realized that that was much more difficult of a task than I thought it was going to be. So we got into the business game and started doing more back-end products and services off of the topic that we talked about on the show, which at the time was networking. The show now, Build Your Network, is now Travis Makes Money. It's what it's evolved into. But we did, 800 episodes of BYN before we switched to Travis Makes Money. So we talked a lot about networking. So we built in some products and services on the back end that help people do that better. And that was probably a year and some change after I started that show. I was able to finally stop knocking doors and go full time with the podcasting online business and just started scaling it from there. And since then, we've kind of worn a lot of different hats, had a software company that we sold and had some agency work that we did some done for you production, done for you podcast booking services, podcast consulting, coaching, courses, community, everything inside of that world. So kind of touched everything along the way.
Wow. You've been around the block.
Once or twice. Yeah.
I love it. Not only knocking doors, man. That's incredible. You really, you have such a vast array of insights in all the different aspects of, online business.
Yeah, knocking doors is a good experience, man. I'm thankful that I'm not doing it anymore. Again, it's a great industry. It wasn't for me forever. I have friends that do it and still do it to this day and have been doing it for a decade, 2 decades, and they make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year and work 20 to 30 hours a week. They don't kill themselves. They sell great products that are great for their customers. They make fantastic commissions. It's a great space to be in. It's just for me, I knew it wasn't going to be what I wanted to do long term. So I was able to, of course, take a lot of those lessons and takeaways from door to door into the podcasting online business space. But that was for sure invaluable experience.
And how has that currently evolved into, your personal brand, you're a dad, you have a family, that whole thing? I think it's super interesting for, the listeners always to hear how do people evolve and how do they go with the change? Because we don't always stay the same person and you want to do
anyway. Yeah.
Even though, okay, great, you have a successful podcast, but how does it shift and change now?
Yeah, it's part of life, man. And it's funny because for kids, it's so normal. And as parents, you watch your kids change almost on a daily basis. It's like the change is so fast and so vast and so, uh, you know, surprising. And it just becomes part of the normal routine is to watch your kids change in front of you. And their kids they're used to change. They're very resilient, and they go from kindergarten to first grade and first grade to second grade. And they're constantly in new cycles of change and dealing with change and dealing with new information and learning by drinking from a fire hydrant sometimes. It's this crazy experience and transformation that happens over the course of their first 20 years of their life. And then something happens when we become adults where we just go, you know what, I guess I don't really need to change anymore. And now that the formal education system is done, I don't need to do anything else. So most grown adults haven't read a book since they've left college or high school. Most people look at their kids and think about how often they change, and then don't look at themselves and ask the same question. When was the last time that I've changed like that? When was the last time that a previous version of myself seems like a different person? And if the answer to that question is, I don't know, then you're not adapting and growing the way that you should be adapting and growing. And you should be doing that it's obviously not going to be at the same pace or rate as your kid because, life, but it should still be happening. You should constantly be evolving and becoming a different person, and life throws a bunch of curveballs. So you have no choice but to change, but to adapt, but to learn and grow. But that's the cool thing about human beings, is that that's literally what we're built to do, is adapt and change. So it's not really a question for me about like how I was able to do it. It was just more, this is what life demands of me at this point. So either I do that or I don't live a good version of life. And that never seemed like a good option to me. So you just change and you get used to as much as you can. You get as comfortable as you possibly can with being uncomfortable. And if you can get really comfortable at discomfort, then you probably have an advantage over a lot of people who are just seeking comfort all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I see that. I see that with myself as well. Like, okay, I have the house, I have the car, I have the family. It's like, okay, there comes a period of time you also want to enjoy that. You want to
Of
be
course.
that, just like relax and sit back into that. Um, but yeah, there
But it's
comes a
not an
time.
either or, it's not either I enjoy life or I change. It's a both and. Of course, you have to enjoy life along the way. If you keep punting enjoyment for a later date, first of all, we're not even guaranteed that later date. So that doesn't make sense. And second of all, your life is nothing but a composition of all of the things that you've experienced over a period of time. And so if you're not constantly aware and building those memories, building those experiences along the way, then you're going to look back and maybe you have a lot of money in the bank or something like that, but life passed you by. You didn't spend a lot of time with your kids. You didn't get to watch them grow up. And now you're sitting there in your 50s and your kids are grown and gone. And all you're doing is regretting not spending the time with them or building family memories or taking the time to do the trips or the vacations or making sure you're spending 20 to 30 minutes at least a day with the kids, that it's a both and thing. And life sometimes calls for different phases, where if you're in a hustle phase, if you're in a family phase, sometimes your financial state might be hurt a little bit because you're spending a lot of time with your kids because they're about to go off to college or they're about to go into kindergarten and they're school age and you want to make sure you spend more time with them. So your business or your financial life might suffer a little bit during those times. And there's going to be other times where it's the opposite, where it's like, your family life is going to struggle a little bit during this time because I got to keep my head down and I got to hustle and I got to make sure that I'm building the life that I want to build for my family to enjoy. And in order to do that, it's going to require sacrifice. In a lot of ways, that time is going to be that sacrifice. They're not going to get as much time from me during this phase or during this season. But as long as it's a season, then I think that that's okay. I think balance is ultimately a myth. You can't be a 50-50 balanced all the time. You're going to drive yourself crazy trying to do that. And that's when you get in this constant state of overcorrection in your time management. Because if you're constantly shooting for that balance, then when you're at work, you're thinking about how bad of a parent you are because you should be with your kids. And then when you're with your kids, you're thinking about how bad of an entrepreneur you are because you should be working on your business. And it's a constant state of overcorrection, and you're never actually going to get to the root of the issue. So you just have to understand sometimes it's about seasons, it's about phases. It's like, well, this next season we have this particular goal that we're trying to get to. And during this time, I'm going to have to hustle my butt off to make sure that we get to that goal. But when we achieve that goal together as a family, it's going to allow us to have this outcome together that we all agree is a good, positive outcome for all of us. So that's going to be what's required of me during this season, and then when you're done with that season, then maybe again, you take, okay, the kids are out of school for the summer, they're about to go into high school, and I know life's going to get crazy busy with sports and everything else. We're going to take this summer and we're just going to travel, just the family. We're going to make sure that we spend time with the kids. Is your business going to suffer? Maybe a little bit. Obviously the goal is, as an entrepreneur, to get the business to a point where it improves even when you're gone. But if you're not in a position to do that, you can't wait until you're in that position in order to do those things, because you don't know when that position will ever come, if it will come. So sometimes I think it's just a seasons thing, man. You got to be wherever your feet are, just be there 100% and be present in that moment, whether it's working on your business or spending time with the family.
Yeah. And based on that, what advice do you have for someone, let's say, who is currently, looking to get into starting their hustle, or just haven't, like, it's like, I should do it, I want to, but they don't get to it. Like, how, do you have any advice for a person that's sitting there listening, be like, yeah, I know I should, but eh.
Yep, absolutely. Do something. That's the cure, man. It's counterintuitive because most people think that you have to think your way to the clarity. Clarity is only going to come from action. When it's just like what Thomas Edison said about he failed 1,000 times before he invented the light bulb. It was like his 1,058th attempt or whatever that finally had a working light bulb. And during that time, when he was asked about it, he said, well, I didn't lose hope, because every time I failed, I figured out another way to not make a light bulb. So you just stay in the game. The problem is, if you never take the first step because you're just thinking about how to make the light bulb, then you're never going to get to something to iterate on. You're never going to build something. You're not actually going to find out if this is a path forward for me or not. You can't make a change. You can't make an alteration of the path if you don't get on the path. So I liken it to like somebody being out in the middle of the ocean, and they know that there's land in a certain direction, but they can't see the land. It's on the horizon. And what most people do is they just get paralyzed by indecision and fear that they're going to select the wrong direction, because in their mind it's like, well, I don't want to head that way because what if it's the wrong way? And I swim out a little bit and I realize it's the wrong way. Then I wasted a lot of time and energy. So all they do is swim around in circles looking for which path to go down, trying to figure out which path is forward. And then the person that's going to be the one that doesn't drown in the middle of the ocean is the person who immediately takes action in a direction. And then once they get out a certain ways and they see that action did not take them the direction that they wanted to go, they swim back to the starting point and then they move in a different direction. And sooner or later, they're going to find the path where the land is. And then they can swim all the way to the destination once they're on the path. But if you don't ever go down the path, then you're just going to be stuck, trying to wade water in the middle of the ocean, and eventually you're just going to drown. So you have to take action, whatever it is. So I want to start a side hustle. I want to start a business. I don't exactly know what it is, or I don't know what industry I want to be in, or I don't know what skills I need to work on. Go do something in that direction. Take time. Whatever free time you have, dedicate it to that. And if you're like, I don't have any free time. Okay, well, first of all, stop lying to yourself, because everybody's got a little bit of free time. You just got to examine your time, do a time audit, and see actually in 15-minute time blocks. If you recorded every 15 minutes for a full 10 hours you were awake every day, you'll be surprised how much time you're wasting scrolling social media or spending too much time at the gym or whatever it is. You can make time for certain things, even if it's just 30 minutes at a time when you're first getting started, but figure out what that is, throw it in ChatGPT, get a plan together, and then take some action in that direction. Whether it's garage sailing, whether it's starting a digital marketing agency, whether it's a podcast, whether it's real estate investing, do something to pull you down that path immediately And you'll find that once you start taking action to that direction, you'll either like it or you'll not like it. And if you don't like it, then pick a different thing and take some action in that direction and see how that feels. But eventually you're going to find something that you just really like doing. And when you do that, that's when the unlock happens, because then you don't have to search for the 30 minutes in your calendar. You're actively eager to spend your free time doing this thing in this direction. And then once you get a win doing something that you like, forget it, dude. That's when it's done. That like the first dollar I ever made from my podcast, I'll never forget it, because it was all, that's all it was. It was not about the money that I was making. I was making way better money doing door-to-door sales, making, 6 figures in door-to-door sales. But I made $200 or $300 one time on a course that I hadn't sold yet from a call that I did for free from somebody who listened to the show. And I immediately was hooked on that, because it was the first money that I ever made on the show. And all it did was show me that it was possible. I took action in a direction, and I put out a bunch of episodes, and people were starting to listen and find out about it. And I jumped on a call with somebody. They were willing to send me money for a course that I had not created yet, because they love the podcast content so much. And when that happened, it was like, I'm off to the races now. Like I did something that I wanted to do and I saw a result from it. There's a win under my belt. Let's get to the next win faster. And then that's when it starts becoming more of an obsession than just like, I guess I got to take my free time to figure out this next thing. Just like, if you never take the action, then you're never going to find the win, and you're never going to be able to course correct to the position that you want to be in, because you're never doing anything. You're just sitting there thinking all the time. The people who win are the people who do.
Very true. Yeah, so true. I think especially when it comes to days like these where you just like it's so easy to like validate an idea in ChatGPT. It's like, oh yeah, good idea. Never
Yep.
did anything about it.
Yep. When you just have a
You know what
bank
I
of
mean?
34 ideas sitting in ChatGPT and nothing's being done.
Oh my god, it's hilarious. Like
I
you
read
see
a book
myself.
recently from my friend Nick Huber, handles the Sweaty Startup, and he encourages people to, do sweaty businesses, sweaty startups, boring, unsexy businesses. And he was talking about a friend of his who was looking at a certain business in his area. It might have been like tree trimming or something like that. Again, one of these kind of home services, boring businesses, unsexy businesses that does well, makes money, has good margins. And he said he had done 6 to 8 weeks or something like that of prep on this business, like looking stuff up, finding market size, doing projections, building a business plan, all this stuff. And then Nick sat down with them, and for an hour, all they did was call through all of the local businesses on Google who offered the service that they had, to see like how responsive the marketplace was for that particular thing. And turns out that competition that was in that local area was really hot, and they were answering the calls. They had good customer support. They had availability for bookings the next day to come out and do an estimate. And it was like, just this 1 hour of doing undid all the 8 weeks of research that he did, and was like, well, this is probably not a good business to go into in this particular area, because there's plenty of competition who's already serving this customer base at a really high level for strong competitive pricing. They found out 4 or 5 different things about it with just an hour of picking up the phone and making calls, rather than sitting there thinking about it, talking back and forth to ChatGPT for 8 weeks. So sometimes it's just the littlest bit of action is going to be a better, more fruitful thing for you than thinking and writing and thinking and writing and thinking and writing. And look, I'm not opposed to those things. I enjoy thinking and writing. I enjoy that part of the process. But if that's all you do, then all you're going to have is a journal full of ideas and nothing ever done.
Yeah, yeah, it's really interesting to see how AI is such an enabler and disabler in a way.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people are gonna, oh, cool, like I can do this when I have
Same with
time.
social. Yeah.
Yeah, same with
Yeah.
social.
We all have the same tool. You know what I mean? We all have the same tool in the palm of our hands. It's how you use it that matters. And you can use social media to build a brand, grow an audience, generate leads for your business, and make good money. Or you can, use social media for being distracted and scrolling all day with no intention of doing anything. So choose wisely.
Yeah, and if someone in the audience is like, okay, this got me fired up, this got me inspired, like where like how would you tell them to start in a day and age like this? Like obviously, find out what you like, blah blah blah. Like I think a lot of people know what they like and what they would like to do, but like how to go about it.
Yeah. Well, it's really difficult to give like blanket advice, because I'm not even necessarily someone who's 100% on board for the do what you like thing. I hesitate to say that because that's what I did. I knew that I would like podcasting, and I was like, if I can figure out a way to make money doing this, that would be awesome. So that works for some people, but I think we're all glamorizing it too much. And it took me 7 years to figure out how to make money on it the way that I wanted to make money on it, with like magical sponsorship income to the degree that, we can do multiple six figures on just sponsorship revenue for our show now. That took me 7 years to figure out. So at the beginning, I had to do a bunch of stuff that I didn't really want to do at that time in order to set myself up in a way to be able to do the thing that I wanted to do really in 7 years. Right. And at the time I was thinking maybe 3 years, nope, took me 7. So immediately elongate the timeline that you're already thinking about is the first thing. And the second thing is like if it were easy to do what you love and make good money doing it, then everybody would do it. So understand that the road is going to be difficult. And if you have something in mind, and maybe you're lucky, maybe you love tree trimming, great, then go be a tree trimmer, because that's a good business. You know what I mean? So I guess what I'm saying is that there's a lot of ways to make really good money by doing something that you don't necessarily love or that you're passionate about, but you can find aspects within that thing to love or be passionate about. Right. So like you don't love tree trimming, for example, but you love systems or processes, or you love figuring out software, or you love talking to customers, doing customer support. You love marketing, you love sales, you love some other aspect of the business. Well, great. Then the niche becomes kind of irrelevant if you can focus on just doing the thing that you love doing within the business, and then hiring out for people who can fulfill the other roles that you need to make the business run. But there's way more opportunity if you go that direction rather than starting another digital marketing business, because there's thousands of those and they're not localized. So I can have access to a digital marketing agency in Australia or the UK or in New York or in LA, and I'm in Vegas. Like I can hire the competition. The pool is unlimited because it's an online business. So if you're getting started and you're like, I want to make good money so that I can do X, whether X is playing golf or podcasting or doing music or comedy or whatever the thing is you love to do. It's like, I'm a big fan of solving for the immediate problem, which is theoretically, if I had $10 million in the bank, I could do whatever I wanted and pursue the things that I really love doing. But the path to monetizing some of those things is a very long road ahead and may or may not ever work out. You take a look at somebody like Matt Rife, for instance. He's a comedian that blew up, like top 5 highest paid comedians of 2024, made tens of millions of dollars, I believe, from everything that he does now. But he did comedy for 11 or 12 years in little comedy clubs. He was about to hang it up and give up on comedy until he finally had one TikTok video that just blew up overnight. And then his brand followed after that and turned him into one of the top 5 touring comedians in the country. That took 12 years of like not doing well, of scraping together enough paychecks to buy some ramen type of stuff, Now, if you really love it, and for him, it was a little bit of an advantage because he started so young, from like 16, I think he started. So like he did it from 16 to 26. Like that's really young. And you have the capability of just like bumming a friend's couch for the night because you need somewhere to sleep type of a thing. And so you obviously don't have that same luxury if you're a 42-year-old person with 3 kids and a spouse and a mortgage to pay. You can't just like, I'm going to give it all up and chase my dreams. It's like, yeah, but what about paying for your kids' food next month? So there's some other, that's why I say it's really hard to give blanket advice, because it's going to vary individual by individual. But ultimately it's if your passion is something like in the arts, if it's something that's elusive, that you don't really have control over the outcome for, then my advice is like, do that in your free time. Use all your free time to do your passion and start building that thing on the side. Go do stand-up comedy, go do a podcast, go write some music and do some gigs on the weekends. But in the meantime, if you can go make real money, like good money, by being an HVAC tech and salesperson and then buying an HVAC company, or by being a plumber, or by having a tree trimming business or something like that, or you're hauling stuff to the dump, or whatever it is, you can make good money doing that. And you can find an aspect about that business that you love, like the marketing or the sales or whatever, then do that first, because that's going to unlock financial freedom and put you up in a position where in a few years from now you can chase what you want to chase without having to worry about the pressure of putting food on your family's table next month.
Yeah.
And like I said, I know that's going to vary person by person, because if it's a 18-year-old that I'm having this conversation with that has no spouse, no girlfriend, no boyfriend, no kids, no responsibilities, and I might just tell them, like, go chase whatever you want to chase for a while. Take your early years and go learn as much as you can, touch as many projects as you can, act on as many paths as you can, so you can really like taste the full rainbow of opportunity at your fingertips, and try to figure out where you want to be by the time you hit 30, 35. But you're older, options are a little bit different, but that's okay. You know what I mean? You can get started today so much easier than you could ever get started. So, that's what I would say. But I know it's not like a super clear plan. It's going to vary person by person. And as long as you are taking steps in a direction, you will probably start figuring out at least the things that you don't want to do, and then potentially end up finding the thing that you really want to do. And then when that starts aligning, that's when you get to unlock a lot of, success, happiness, love, relationships, fulfillment, all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah,
the
there's
destination
this
is worth the journey.
exactly. There's this African proverb. It says, "Go as far as you can see, and you'll see further."
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Success is a spiral staircase. You can only
Mhm.
see the next step or two, but if you don't ever take the next step, you can't see the next step after that.
Exactly. Very cool. Yeah, I love that. Especially, the advice about, looking at the competition. Obviously, local businesses is a lot less competition than anything digital service wise. So I think that's a good takeaway for people as well.
Yeah, well, because there's demand there. Like that was their exercise, was basically call around to all the people who offer this service, whatever that service is that you're looking at providing. And if their soonest availability, you call around to 4 or 5, and a couple of them don't even answer the phone. A couple of them, you fill out a lead form and you wait a week and you never hear back from anybody. And then the ones you do get a hold of, the soonest they can come out to look at your trees is 3.5 weeks from now. And then you look at the pricing and it's really high or something like that. It's like, that might be a great place to do it, because there's plenty of demand for that service, and the companies that are currently in that space are dropping the ball in a lot of the areas that they shouldn't be dropping the ball in, like time to lead. If you're filling out a lead form, you should get a call from somebody within an hour. And if you're not getting a call back from any of those places within an hour, and then when you finally do get on the phone with them 4 days later, their next availability to come to your house is 3 weeks from now, like, that probably tells you that there's some pretty good demand in the area. They seem pretty swamped. They can't even keep up with all the leads that are coming into them. We could probably enter this space, and the little bit I know about SEO, we could probably start getting some of these leads ourselves, and we can come out the next day and have better pricing and answer the phone within an hour or whatever it is. It'll tell you a lot, give you a lot of research about the market that you're trying to enter into by just taking that action of figuring out what's out there.
Yeah. Yeah, beautiful. And I want to switch gears a little bit towards, some more personal questions. And that is, and currently on your, entrepreneurial and spiritual journey, like, who or what inspires you most? Or top three, whatever you feel, like what calls you?
I mean, the easy answer is my kids. The most life-changing experience that you can have. It's one of the reasons that you keep getting up and trying stupid things and risking everything, is just to, I never wanted to be the do as I say, not as I do parent. I want them to see that I'm at least chasing what I want and feel the benefits of the work that I put in to get to that thing. And that was really important to me, and it continues to inspire me to this day. Even sometimes when days where I don't want to be doing anything, or I feel down on myself or whatever, you think about how would I coach my own child to behave in this situation, and can I embody that?
Mm,
And that gets me out of bed and working on the projects, because I don't want to be the person that's like, you should work on the things that you want to do, but for me it's a different story, whatever, blah blah blah. And it's like, well, that's not
yeah,
how they're going to learn, man. They're going to learn by watching you do things, not by hearing you say things.
exactly. Yeah, I also like recently I went to Japan, and I love tea, Japanese culture. Very very different from the West. One thing that's a big topic over there is like legacy and successor. Like everything, it feels like when you look towards Asia, it's just they think way more long term.
Absolutely.
You know, like we think for a lifetime maybe, and they think like for 3 generations, right? So for me, the question that I had recently in my mind was like, I have an agency, I have a tea brand on Amazon. I mean, it'd be cool if my kids would do some of that. Not that they need to, right? But like in Asia, it's like not even a question. It's like this business has to continue. Like I think the oldest business in Japan is like 1,100 years old.
Wow.
Can you imagine? Like it looks like a cool number, like 900 something or whatever it is, but you don't understand what it takes to keep a business alive 1,000 years.
That's wild.
Like even just 2 generations. It seems like in the US, a lot of things are just like build it, scale it up quickly, sell it, destroy it, whatever it is. It's like the thought of longevity is something that I don't see a lot in US businesses.
Yeah, I think Western culture emphasizes the dollar too much, and Eastern culture is really good at emphasizing the practice. That's why there's like 48 books on Zen and the art of towel folding, Zen and the art of gardening, Zen and the art, like, because those cultures practiced those things as a form of spiritual activity, as a form of meditation, as a form of connection to the divine, as a form of connection to the people in the world around them. So when they're doing a tea ceremony, it's not they're not thinking about how much money can I make off of this. They're not thinking about what's going on at home. The whole emphasis of Zen and the art of anything is to lose yourself in the tradition and practice of the thing. And I think Western culture, for better or worse, worships the dollar a little bit more, obviously. So they don't get lost in the practice. They get lost trying to chase the money. And that's when you can cannibalize businesses that have been doing really well for a long period of time. So you have a founder who genuinely cared about the practice, genuinely cared about the product, genuinely cared about the customer. And then they sell, and a private equity group comes in and installs a CEO that's all about the bottom line, and they take away all of the things that founder did extremely well to connect their message to that community or to that product or service to their customer base. And then they destroy the business. They cannibalize the business, and then they just roll up a bunch of them and sell it to another private. It's all about the dollar rather than the thing. And I think Eastern culture figured it out, that it is not about the dollar, it's about the thing. And if you focus on the thing, the dollars will come, by the way. It is, again, it's not an either or thing. It's a both and thing. It's just one path leads toward happiness, fulfillment, great relationships, a long and healthy life. And the other path leads toward addiction and depression and anxiety, even though you might have a lot of dollars in the bank. So you can do both. And the best entrepreneurs are always a combination of those two things. They are obviously, you can't have a business without a good business model. So they're obviously are about making money, but they also genuinely care about the experience they provide to their customers, the way that they treat people, the way they treat their employees, the culture they build internally. All of those things matter and will actually counterintuitively provide more profit for the business anyway. So don't just think you got to choose between one or the other, man. Marry those two things together.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting to see. So many companies in the US get created and stomped to the ground within 10 years often. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Cool. And how about yourself? Like what are about your own legacy? Like what are 3 words, for example, that you'd like people to know you for after you leave this physical plane?
Oh, 3 words that I like to be known for. I guess people. Like, I just would like to be known as somebody who just genuinely cared about people in general, not just the people that are closest to me, but people in general at large. I think it's just if more people cared about the outcomes of other people's lives, I think that we'd be in a better place. So I think people is one. Family is the other one. It's kind of more under the people umbrella, but this just puts it closer to home for me to think about my kids, and then the people that are close to me, my best friends, and my parents, and my wife, and all those close personal relationships. I'd like to have those. That was something that I genuinely cared about. I don't know, man. I don't know what the third one would be. I think relationships are basically everything to me. So it's hard for me to include anything in that category that wouldn't go under that. Obviously I'd like to have a lot of money. Obviously I'd like to have a podcast that is more influential and things like that. But I don't feel like it would be a waste of my life if I got to the end of it and didn't accomplish those things. Those feel like bonuses. Those feel like the cherries on top, not the sauce itself,
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, very much, from the inside out rather than the outside in.
Right. Right.
Nice. Well, we're coming up towards the end of the episodes, and I always love to give that part over to the guest and just ask them what they want to call in for themselves in the future. Yeah, for their entrepreneurial and spiritual personal journey.
Abundance, I would say. Abundance is a word I've been thinking a lot about lately. Abundance of revenue, income, money. Absolutely. I like money, man. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I don't like having money or I don't like making money. So money's a big aspect of life, and it can help solve a lot of problems. But the caveat with something we sign off Travis Makes Money with all the time is money will only solve your money problems. Then you're left with all the other problems that money can't solve. But it's usually easier to solve the rest of those problems if you got money in the bank. So let's focus our time and attention on solving that money problem first. If you can solve that money problem first, you tend to be able to be more helpful in a lot of other regards when it comes to helping out the people that are closest to you. Like I said, it's a really great problem solver. So money is definitely one of them. That's why I say the word abundance kind of generically, because abundance of money is awesome. But also abundance of time with people. I think that's one thing that I am coming back to a lot in the last couple of years. Is I was so focused on business for some time where I didn't make time in my life for relationships that were just healthy, good, positive relationships for the sake of having those relationships, not necessarily something that was going to help me in business or whatever. I sacrificed personal friendships for professional networks, and I don't think that's a worthy sacrifice. So abundance of time with the people that are closest to me, abundance of money in the bank account, and yeah, that's it, man. That would put me in a really great spot.
Cool. Awesome. Well, know that these things already are making their way to you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So doing my best anyway.
Yeah, just calling it in. It's going to come. Don't worry. All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. Really appreciate it. And yeah, let us know where people can find you and yeah, how they can stay in touch with you.
Yeah, sure, man. Travis Makes Friends, Travis Makes Money. Those are the two podcasts. So if you're a podcast listener, which you are, if you're listening to this right now, go check out those podcasts. Love to hear any feedback from you. If you got feedback, shoot it over to me on Instagram at Travis Chappell on Instagram.
Beautiful. Awesome. Thanks for being on.
Appreciate the
Bye,
time, man.
Travis.
Thank you.